So him existing on the same team as me is what Whoa! Oh my god! No way!
Winter Soldier is completely busted, and if you can master this character, you can carry every single game you're in. Now in this video, I'm going to break down his entire kit and give you tips on every single ability and ultimate, and also give you the secrets to unlock this character's true potential. Now if you want to get better at Marvel Rivals, smash that subscribe button because we have a lot of guides coming, and also let me know what hero guides you want to see next on this channel down below. Let's get back into the video. Now, Bucky's primary is a 3-shot pistol that fires a fast-moving projectile. It's going to have a fall-off that starts at 20 meters and is going to end at 40 meters, with it only doing 65% of the damage. And that damage is 70 damage or 140 for a headshot, and it can do a max of 240 if you hit 2 headshots in a row, which is going to kill most squishes in the game. Now, while 3 bullets isn't a lot before you have to reload, this is where his passive Ceaseless Charge comes in. And one of his effects on this passive is that every time he uses an ability, it's going to reload his primary. This means that if you effectively weave all your abilities together, you could rarely ever have to reload at all. In addition to that, when Bucky uses his abilities, he's gonna get some amount of bonus health depending on what ability he uses. Now his first active is called Trooper's Fist, and this is Bucky's bread and butter. You're going to dash forward and attach to an enemy and then uppercut them at the end of the animation. Attaching is going to deal 25 and uppercutting is going to do 65 for a total of 90 damage, which if you combine that with the headshot is a lot of freaking damage. Now while attaching can only hit one person, the uppercut can hit multiple, so you can actually pin someone into someone else and then uppercut them both. It's going to be on a 12-second cooldown, which is a really long time, and you got to be careful about using this ability and not having it for when you need it, because it's one of your best mitigation tools at stopping or killing divers and tanks. Now you're also going to gain 50 bonus health when you use this because of your passive Ceaseless Charge. Now, the primary use of this is going to be to outplay people. You can cancel people's abilities, or you can combo this into a headshot. It's actually really easy to pin someone, uppercut them up, and then hit them into a headshot. It's a giant burst of damage out of nowhere, and you can use it to kill someone that is getting a little bit too close to you. And it's like a set win condition that you can whip out of nowhere that does a guaranteed giant amount of damage. Now, you can also use this to displace tanks. One of the best things you can do is actually stand above a choke where enemies are funneling through, and then when an enemy tank walks too far forward, you can actually fall behind them and then Trooper's Fist them right into your team. And not only is this going to be able to put them right into your team and get them in a really vulnerable state, but you can actually use this ability through shields, whether it's Cap Shield or Magneto Shield. You can actually just bust right through that and still get the enemy and allow them to get shot by your team. And with really marginal follow-up at all, you can typically generate a kill in this way. Now, last time, you can also use this ability for mobility to get height or get back to the fight. And while it seems kind of weird to use it for that, sometimes you just really need to get to the high ground, or you really need to run away, so you're just going to use it. But I would be careful about using it to get back to the fight. Sometimes your spawn isn't that far away from the fight, and there are characters that are looking for you, characters like Psylocke, for example, that are looking to hunt you as you come back. And if you do not have this ability when a Psylocke engages you, there's almost no chance you're going to win that fight. You really need this ability to win a lot of 1v1s, so you got to be extra careful in those situations. Now, the next active ability is called Tainted Voltage, and this is going to do 55 damage, and it's actually going to generate a 35% slow on enemies that are hit for 2 seconds. In addition to that, it's going to give you 30 extra bonus HP, down from 50 from the previous ability because of your passive. Now, one of the things that's really great about this ability is that it's going to knock down flying heroes. There's a lot of heroes that are pretty hard to hit. You do have a fast-moving projectile, but it's not hit scan, so if they're too far away, you're not going to be able to hit them. But if you slow them and knock them to the ground, it's pretty easy for you and your team to follow up, especially if you make them fall right into your team. Now, that slow in general is going to allow for easy headshot follow-ups to any character, but the predominant use of this ability is actually just to use it as a reload. It allows you to flow your ammo properly together. Instead of shoot 3 and then reload, you're going to shoot 3, use a Tainted Voltage, and then get to shoot 3 more, and you're going to have like a constant outflow of damage because the other abilities are more situational than this. This one can still be used at range, so at the very least, you're just going to do a little bit more damage, get a free reload, and continue your cycle of trying to poke and deal damage. Now, the last active is BIONIC Hook, and it's a crowd control hook that's going to pull enemies right towards you, and it's going to go 10 meters at 0.5 of a second charge to a max of 20 meters at a 1 second charge. So even though it can charge to 4 seconds, only after that 1 second, you're already at max charge. It's not doing any extra damage, so you don't need to charge it for any longer, but you could still hold it potentially if you're waiting for enemies to peek into you, as an example. Now, when you use this, you're going to get 30 bonus HP because you're passive, but the first tip I have for you about this is be careful who you hook into you. I know it kind of seems like you could just hook anyone, and maybe you just want to throw it out because you want to reload, but if you're going to hook like a goddamn Venom into you at full HP, that Venom might just freaking kill you. Now, you can uppercut, headshot, and follow up with a ton of damage, so if these tanks don't have any of their cooldowns, you can typically kill them even if it's a tank you're pulling into you. But if they still have their abilities and they're healthy, I would be really careful about pulling that character into you if you're by yourself. Now, often you're going to try to combo this with your Trooper's Fist, but what I would suggest you do instead of pulling someone into you and then instantly pinning them, pull someone into you, fire at least a couple of bullets, then pin them, and then fire some more, because you're going to get full use out of that reload, and you're going to actually put in a little bit of extra damage into the combo instead of just like pinning them into you and then instantly pinning them and not using those extra bullets in that free reload. Now, a great way to use this is when you're fighting at a choke. You can actually pull people into your team because the enemy tank is kind of jiggling in front and behind. They're kind of pushing and pulling forward and back, forward and back. And if you catch them lacking, like kind of standing off to the side in a choke point, you can pull them out of the choke point, and then your team can collapse on them because they're out of position, and that's going to just allow you to just delete a tank out of nowhere. It's really great if you have at least a duo partner, and it's super powerful because enemy tanks are not expecting it, and you're just going to be able to pull 20 meters right to your team. That's really, really strong and can often generate you a free kill. There's also some more fun and powerful ways you can use this. Like, you can actually use it to pull people off the map, especially tanks at full HP. There are certain areas and certain maps that there's gaps in the map that they can fall into. You can just pull them right off. I actually pulled this off on stream where I got to pull someone into the lava after breaking a certain bit of wall, and it was really satisfying to do. I was definitely a huge fan. And you can also do fun stuff like grab people through Doctor Strange's teleporter and then close the telly. That's pretty cool. And there's definitely going to be more super powerful ways you can find to use this. You're just going to have to get a bit creative. Now, next, we got to talk about the ultimate Kraken impact. And this is a phenomenal ultimate that has the chance of wiping the entire team. And it's going to do 100 raw damage, and if an enemy gets hit by it and dies immediately after or gets killed by it, you're going to get another Kraken impact. So you can actually potentially combo this off over and over and over again, killing the entire enemy team. Now, certain enemies that are at 20% HP or less will have the culling mark that if they get hit by Kraken impact will just instantly die, and you'll get that reset. So this actually means that with a character like Groot, for instance, Kraken impact is technically going to do 140 damage to him if he's at 20%, because it's more than the 100 that Kraken impact normally does, but it's still that 20%, so he gets the culling mark. Now, when you get that reset, though, it's only going to last 8 seconds, so you can't use this to get another ult that you save for a future fight. 8 seconds is a long time, though, so you could definitely, like, walk over and then use it again. You don't have to use it right away, and you don't have to spam it right away, but you're not going to be able to, like, kill 2 people, get your Kraken impact back, and then wait until the next fight to use it. Not going to happen. Now, this is one of the weird instances where Winter Soldier can actually dive. In a lot of cases, Winter Soldier would just die if he dives in, goes in with his Venom, goes in with his team, like super aggressive. He could just die. But with this, you actually typically want to combo this with a full-on dive. They go in, they dive enemies, they get them low. Then you all of a sudden create a very momentum-heavy ultimate that can just chain off damage and follow up on all the damage that your teammates have done. Now, something that can happen with this ultimate is that you go in and you don't kill anyone with Kraken impact, even though they were low while you were in the air. And then also when you try to follow up, they keep getting healed and you can't kill them, so you just waste the ultimate. One thing that you often want to do is try to lead with your normal combo, you know, your damage into your pull, into your uppercut, because you can bait out not only their abilities, but also your opponent's burst heal abilities, and then they're much less likely to survive the Kraken impact coming down and all the follow-up shots and damage that you're going to unleash on them, so you can at the very least generate that kill, and they have less resources to deny your ultimate. Now, we also got to talk about his synergy, Infinite Grit, and this synergy is going to be with Rocket, and when Rocket uses an ammo overload device, Winter Soldier is going to get infinite ammo and 25% fire rate. You're just going to start tapping fools. And I think this could be super strong because you're just outputting so much raw damage at such a fast rate that if enemies are not expecting it, you could really just dominate, get a ton of kills. I think it's a pretty good synergy, especially because both Rocket and Winter Soldier, I think, play well in the same type of composition. They both output a lot of raw damage. They both synergize fairly well together just as a core-based kit, and then this synergy is just icing on the cake. Now let's break down Winter Soldier positioning, matchups, and more so that you can start to master this character as quickly as possible. First off is positioning, and the biggest kind of jarring aspect of Winter Soldier is that you don't have any mobility. Yes, you technically have a really short range pin, but you're not going to want to use that to move, and it doesn't go very far at all. And there's a lot of characters that have a lot of mobility. That means that they can close in the gap on you, get on top of you, and you can't run away. And so oftentimes you need a position in a place that is strong enough because you're forward enough, you can still contribute to the fight, but it's back enough to where you can still threaten an enemy if they come after you. At the end of the day, you can't stop enemies from just deciding to just use all their cooldowns and come after you, but you can play far enough away to where you demand respect. You're basically making it so they have to overextend just enough into your heavy amounts of crowd control and burst damage that if they try to come after you, they will lose that fight because they are going to commit too much, and you can shoot them on the way in, you can stun them when they get close, and you can combo them if they mess up at all. And this is only going to work if you make it harder for them to get to you. You can't just allow an enemy to just get on top of you with all their cooldowns if they have advanced mobility, because unless you can insta-kill them right then and there, you're just not going to be able to get away. And that's really where that positioning comes in. You're going to need to play close to natural cover, so the areas on the map that you can use to kind of back away, jiggle behind, and hide behind are really important. And if enemies want to chase you and fight you and run you down into an isolated 1v1, you can set those terms, because at the end of the day, in a true 1v1, Winter Soldier wins almost every single one of them. So in a way, you're kind of baiting enemies in. You're like, hey, I'm going to be here, I'm going to poke, I'm going to do a ton of damage, but if you want to come chase me, come on, and you're going to keep backing up, and if they don't chase you, then you're going to go back out, and if they do chase you, you're going to keep backing up, to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm going to take the 1v1 with you. I have all these tools to just insta win the 1v1 if you mess up, or if I hit some good shots, I'm just going to win out of nowhere. And that's really the power of Winter Soldier, but you got to learn how to play that fine line. Now, you can also off-angle, where you're playing like the adjacent angles, and that's typically where you're going to want to operate, and you can even soft flank, and sometimes even harder flank sometimes, if the enemy tanks are full committing into your team. Sometimes because you have such a high amounts of burst damage, you can get behind an enemy, quickly kill a support, and if any enemy comes back to try to punish you, you're going to get a 1v1 with them, which is exactly what you want. It didn't cost you any cooldowns to do that. But keep in mind, if the enemy team kill your team, then they're going to come for you, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. But you probably lost that fight anyways, and maybe if you get a couple kills in the backline, you could turn a fight. So finding these really smart timings is something that you're going to have some trial and error for, but there are moments where you can go for these super aggressive plays, and they really swap a fight that you would have lost. Now, we do need to talk about matchups, because in general, I think that he has a great time in any 1v1 matchup. Of course, in 2v1 situations, he's going to struggle because he has a set amount of cooldowns, and even worse than that, I think he doesn't want to necessarily fight another person immediately after he fought one person, right? He has a set amount of cooldowns that he can use and really win most 1v1s, but it's going to take 12 seconds for him to get that pin back, and that's really his best tool to win that 1v1. Although if you're hitting some nice shots, you can definitely 2v1 in the right situation. That being said, there are certain characters that if you challenge them in their effective range, you're going to lose. So like Hawkeye and Widowmaker, they do more damage to you from range than you do to them. So you don't really want to fight them in range at all. If you fight them in range, you're going to lose, and you need to find creative ways to wrap around the map to either not fight them or fight them from closer ranges, because from that further range, you are going to lose every single time. And in general, you want to fight in your effective range, but mostly where your effective range doesn't line up with the enemy. So you can kind of play a close to mid-range fight, right? So up against characters that have a long effective range, like Black Widow, you want to close in that gap, get close, take a close off angle against them so that you're closer and you're going to be able to do more damage and threaten them with potentially a combo. But against divers and other characters like that, you want to create that separation, because if they don't close in the gap, they're going to lose the fight because you're doing more damage from that mid-range, and you want them to have to expend cooldowns just to get close to you while you're doing damage to them, and then you're going to be able to use your cooldowns to close in the gap, because you're not bad from close range, but if they can't do damage to you at all from mid-range, then fight the mid-range. This is the core concept in getting better at every hero shooter, and it's about finding where your character is most optimal and your opponent's character is least optimal. Being able to overlap those things in your favor is how you're going to consistently win every single fight. Now, against any flyer, Tainted Voltage dragging them to the ground is fantastic. You're going to get a really easy kill that way. Don't get caught without pin versus any freaking diver at all, because you're just going to die to them if you don't have your pin. So don't use it for mobility or anything like that when there's divers prowling around. But over time, you'll learn little special tricks with every single individual character, but these are some general tips that will definitely help you out. And number 3, something I wanted to mention is about mechanical skill. There is actually higher than expected mechanical requirements to getting a lot of value on this hero. Yes, the core fundamentals come down to positioning and ability use, but the better your mechanics are, your fundamental mechanics, the more extra value you'll get. When you peek an angle and get a quick kill, or you shut down 2 people in a 1v2. This is why you should always be practicing your mechanics if you want to become a Winter Soldier player. Make sure to practice your crosshair placement and consistently try to hit criticals. I know it is easier to hit body shots, but by trying to be accurate, by trying to hit criticals, this is how you actually make yourself more accurate. I know that seems kind of weird, but by not trying, you develop something called lazy aim, where your aim kind of plateaus at a certain level because you're not actively trying to push your aim to higher and higher mechanical heights. The last step, why do I think Winter Soldier is so damn good in this game, in this meta? And it comes down to the 3 Ds: displacement, dueling, and damage. Displacement is so powerful. Crowd control is so powerful. Forcing someone into the wrong position, crowd controlling someone into your team, crowd controlling someone out of abilities, making it so that they can't fight back, or having an auto win condition. That's what displacement does. And dueling, basically Winter Soldier can win in 1v1s against everyone. And there's so many characters that get threatened by the amount of damage that Winter Soldier can output. You can threaten tanks. You can insta-kill supports. You can win duels with every DPS. And at the core root of Marvel Rivals, there are going to be so many 1v1 situations that just winning them and then coming back to the fight as a winner that gets to create that numbers advantage is so important. And then damage. Winter Soldier in the neutral game, which is just where he's kind of playing with the team and trading damage, just does so much raw damage, he's hard to ignore. Like, if he's playing a slight off angle and just outputting damage into your team, you can't ignore a Winter Soldier. If you leave him alone, he's just gonna get a crazy amount of damage out. He's gonna generate picks. He's just really hard to ignore, but he's also really hard to push, and he's really hard to fight. So he creates this rock in a hard place situation. A good Winter Soldier can feel really, really difficult to deal with, and that's really amazing. If you are that Winter Soldier, that is just really, really hard to beat. But if you learned absolutely anything in this video, please do me a solid and press that subscribe button. I really hope you enjoyed this guide, but let me know down below what guides you want to see next. Thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it. Check out the Discord for community and conversation, and I'll see you next time.